Hello everybody, it's time again for another video. This section is on Ecology Unit, our Ecology Unit, Part 1, Lesson 1 about populations. If you're wondering, what is a population again? Remember, at any time you can either pause the video, stop the video, go back and look up the bold vocabulary words in your awesome interactive glossary that is found on the Google Classroom. So to save us some time along the way, all of your major vocabulary is found in your interactive glossary. First, let's talk about how are all living things connected. Ecology, which is what our whole unit is about now, is the study of how organisms interact with each other and their environment. You should already know what biotic factors are. If you don't, stop the video, go back, and look it up through your interactive glossary. Some examples of biotic factors are trees, deer, fish, and a swan. However, living things are still tied to the non-living environment. These non-living things are called abiotic factors. Some examples of abiotic factors are the sun, water, soil, and rocks. These things are not living, however, living things still need these items in order to survive themselves. The levels of the environment, or our levels of organization, is what we made our foldable out of on the green paper. You know that an organism is a single living thing. A population would be a whole bunch of the same species living together. Individuals of a population often compete with each other for resources. For example, these deer. They're always in competition for food, for mates, for living space. Individuals compete with each other. Think about yourselves. When you're in gym class, aren't you competing on the basketball court or on the soccer field? Competition. You're competing with your classmates. In the animal world, animals also compete for resources they need to survive. The next greatest level of environment is community. So we have our single deer. Then we have his friend deer to make up the population. And then you add in all the other living things like trees. How about some people? Maybe a bird flying overhead. That makes up the community. Now we have our deer friend, all the trees, the people, the birds, and the non-living things. We add in some sunshine and a nice little rock, and now we have a complete ecosystem. We have all the living things and the non-living things together. However, an ecosystem is an awfully big place. So what determines where a population can live? A niche is an organism's role in its environment. A niche, for example, would be a shark eating fish. That's its role. Its job is to eat fish. Where a shark lives are influenced by abiotic factors too, not just the fish, but of all the environment around him. Things like temperature, rainfall, or in the case of the shark, salinity of the water, how salty the water is, can influence where he will live in the ocean. Some biotic factors that will influence where the shark's going to live are going to be interactions with other organisms. He's probably going to want to live where there's a lot of food to eat, or maybe where there's other sharks that he can hang out with, or maybe he'll avoid other sharks depending on the type of shark he is. There are some other factors that influence population size, like this population of awesome deer. Things like resource availability. If resources are lost, it means the population will shrink. However, if resources are gained, It means the population will grow again. Changes in the environment can also influence how many organisms will live there. The carrying capacity, which is the maximum allowed amount of one species, can change when the environment changes. For example, a population may grow after a rainy season. Cue the rain. Plants produce many leaves and seeds, allowing for herbivores, such as these deer, to grow because they've got plenty of food. However, if there's an environmental change like a forest fire, cue the fire. Awesome graphic. A forest fire or any other natural disaster can cause a population to shrink. If the trees are burnt away, no food for the deer. No food for the deer, no deer. Or what if new competitors enter the area? What if these deer are trying to compete for that tree food with other organisms? Or what if all of a sudden about 100,000 wolves moved into the area and were eating up all the deer? So environmental factors can either cause a population to grow or shrink. Other factors that can limit population size. Remember, limit means keep it from growing, a limiting factor. Abiotic limiting factors would be things like lack of water, maybe a drought, or lack of air. Fish in the water, they still need a certain amount of oxygen. Maybe a natural disaster or weather disaster. Biotic factors that can influence a population size. Think of a zebra. Will zebra eat grass? If they're competing for that grass with antelope, that could influence the population size of the zebra. Also, lions prey on zebras. So if there's a lot of lions in the area, a lion is a living thing, so that could influence how many zebra will be in the area. Since we're in ecology now, there's not going to be any more blowing up and no more explosions. So for the rest of the semester, instead of explosions, we're going to watch some cool, crazy, sometimes gross, wild animals clip. So let's check this out with a zebra and a lion.
Not marathoners. They can hit 35 miles an hour, but only for a few seconds. So they team up, approaching their prey from different angles. Zebras learn to keep their distance, but one zebra is about to violate the first rule of the safari. Always stay with the group. The lion will go for the typical death blow, crushing the windpipe. While the team keeps their prey from getting away. Of all the world's cats, lions are the only social animal, especially at dinner time. After a kill is made, males always eat first, then the females. What's left goes to the cubs.
Whoa, hope you enjoyed some sweet zebra carcass in that one. All right, let's move on. What interactions between organisms can influence population size? So we're still talking about organisms interacting together and how it can influence the size of a population. Well, we just saw a predator-prey relationship, but what about competition? Here is a picture of two elk. Remember, competition is when two organisms fight with each other for a resource. They could be of the same population or they could be of different populations. So within a population, here's some elk. They're competing with each other for food, for space, and most of the time for mates. So I want to show you another cool, amazing animal clip of two elk who got caught in a playground play set competing. Watch this.
All on tape. An older bull is helpless after getting his antlers stuck in a swing set. The young buck repeatedly rams the defenseless bull with his piercing horns. Park Ranger Bill Moffat says battles like this are almost impossible to stop. Horrified vacationers can no longer just stand by. Some honk their horns. This man tries to stop the assault with a playground seesaw. Get out of here! Get out of here! Another man even sprays a can of mace. Their efforts are not only futile, they could be fatal. Ranger Moffat says, although their racks can be deadly, most elk will do all they can to avoid a fight, because win or lose, they can expect to be injured.
Whoa, that was pretty intense. So you can see even elk can get very violent when they're competing. Let's go to something a little less violent. How about trees? Yeah, trees are less violent. Trees are a great example of competition between populations. Different species of trees and plants are always competing for sunlight and for space. Which one can grow taller to reach the sunlight, whose roots can grow deeper to reach the water. So even trees are in competition. The opposite of competition is cooperation, when organisms work together. Some examples are killer whales. Killer whales hunt in groups. Emperor penguins huddle in huge groups for warmth. Cooperation helps individuals get resources, which can make populations grow.
We're going to quickly talk about symbiotic relationships. Symbiotic relationships are any time two organisms in different species have a special relationship together. The first type of symbiotic relationship is mutualism. Mutualism is when two organisms both get something good out of their relationship together. That means they both benefit. An example would be a bee and a flower. The bee gets the pollen it needs to make honey, and then the flower gets pollinated so it's able to reproduce. Another example is commensalism. Commensalism is when one organism gets something good and the other one gets nothing good or bad. An example of this would be a whale and barnacles. Barnacles grow all over the whale, and they're able to get a place to live, and they're able to go through the water and get something to eat, but the whale is not hurt, it's not helped, it's just there. So that's commensalism. Parasitism is when one organism gets a benefit and the other one gets harmed. That means it gets something bad. An example of this would be a tapeworm. Ew! Tapeworms get in your dog's intestines and they eat all the nutrients that your dog is supposed to absorb into its bloodstream. They can grow to be several feet, if not even yards or meters long. Gross. So now that we've seen what symbiotic relationships are, let's see if you know the difference between a symbiotic relationship and not.
I have a pen, I have an apple, apple pen.
Was that a symbiotic relationship? An apple and a pen? No. Apple may be a living thing or part of a living thing, but a pen is not a living thing. You can't have a symbiotic relationship between a living thing and a non-living thing. Let's try another one. Was that an example of a symbiotic relationship? No. Even though they were both living things, they were both the same species of monkey. One was eating bugs off the other and helping it. However, since they're both monkeys, it's not a symbiotic relationship.
All right, everybody, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. And remember, at any time you can go into Google Classroom and you can get to your Ecology Unit Glossary. All you have to do is click on it, and everything you need is at your fingertips. All of the unit terms, everything you need is right there. So please make sure you visit your glossary if you have anything you need to look up. You did a great job putting it together. Have a great one.